I stood in the doorway, watching as the car pulled out of the driveway, the tension in my chest slowly unfurling. The bitter taste of anger still lingered on my tongue, a remnant of the argument that had just torn through my quiet evening. My son, my only child, had just stormed out, leaving me reeling from the harshness of his words. "You're a cancer, Mom, a poison in my life. I can't have you around anymore." Those words echoed in my mind as I slowly closed the door, the finality of the sound resonating through the empty house. I had always feared this day might come, the day when Scott would finally succumb to the venom that had been dripping into his ear for years. But even in my worst nightmares, I hadn't expected it to hurt this much. This was supposed to be a day of celebration. My 62nd birthday. I had spent the day preparing, putting up the decorations, setting the table with the special china, and baking the cake that Scott loved so much when he was a child. I had called him in the morning, my voice full of hope, asking if he and the kids could come over for dinner. He had hesitated, and I could hear Rachel's voice in the background, sharp and insistent. But eventually he agreed. My heart had soared. But now, hours later, the house was silent, save for the ticking of the clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. The lasagna sat untouched on the table, the cake still in its box. I couldn't bear to look at them, symbols of a family dinner that would never happen. Instead, I found myself sinking onto the couch, the weight of the evening pressing down on me until I felt like I couldn't breathe. How did it come to this? I had given everything to Scott, raised him on my own after his father left, poured all my love and energy into making sure he had a good life. But none of it seemed to matter now. Rachel had seen to that. From the moment Scott brought her home, I knew she was trouble. There was something in her eyes, something cold and calculating, that set off alarm bells in my head. But Scott was smitten, blind to the warning signs, and as the years passed, she slowly, methodically, turned him against me. I had tried to warn him, begged him to see through her manipulations, but he wouldn't listen. And now, here I was, cast aside like yesterday's trash, alone in an empty house on what should have been a joyous day. A knock on the door jolted me out of my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone, and for a moment I considered ignoring it, but the knocking persisted, more insistent this time. With a heavy sigh, I pulled myself up and went to the door, opening it to find Sabrina standing there, her face etched with concern. "What the hell happened, Julia?" she asked, her voice full of worry as she took in my tear-streaked face. "Scott," I managed to choke out. He kicked me out of his life, said I was poison." Sabrina's eyes narrowed in anger. "That little bastard, on your birthday no less? Get your things, you're coming home with me." I nodded numbly, too exhausted to argue, and grabbed my purse. Sabrina's hand was warm and steady on my shoulder as she guided me to her car, her presence a lifeline in the storm that had become my life. As we drove, she kept glancing over at me, her brow furrowed in concern. "This isn't right, Julia. Scott can't treat you like this. We need to do something." I shook my head. "What can I do, Sabrina?" "He's made his choice. Rachel has him wrapped around her finger." Sabrina's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "Maybe so, but that doesn't mean he gets to just walk all over you. You're his mother, for God's sake. It's time he and that witch learned that there are consequences for their actions." I looked at her, confusion mixing with the pain. "What are you talking about?" She gave me a slow, determined smile. "I'm talking about revenge, Julia. It's time to take back your life, and I know just the person to help us." Her words sparked something deep inside me, a flicker of anger that had been smothered by years of heartache. Could I really do this? Could I really make Scott and Rachel pay for what they had done to me? As we sped through the dark streets, that flicker began to grow, fanned by the memory of Scott's cold eyes and Rachel's smug smile. "Yes," I whispered, almost to myself. "It's time they faced the consequences." The next morning I found myself sitting in a dimly lit diner, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. Sabrina sat across from me, a mischievous glint in her eyes as she scanned the menu. "He'll be here any minute," she said, glancing up at the door. I nodded, my nerves frayed as I wondered what I had gotten myself into. But before I could second-guess my decision, the bell above the door jingled, and a tall, broad-shouldered man walked in. He had a rugged look about him, the kind of man who had seen his share of trouble and wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Sabrina waved him over, her smile widening. "Julia, meet my brother. Julia, meet my James. He's just the man we need." James nodded at me, his gaze assessing. Sabrina told me what happened. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Mrs. Daniels, but I think I can help." I raised an eyebrow. "How?" He leaned forward, his voice low and serious. "In my line of work, I've learned that everyone has secrets. And I'm willing to bet that Rachel has more than a few skeletons in her closet." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" James smiled, slow and dangerous. "I mean, let me dig into her past. If there's dirt to be found, I'll find it. And once we have that information, well, let's just say karma has a way of catching up with people." A thrill of anticipation ran through me. Could it really be that simple? Could I really make Rachel pay for what she'd done? I met James's eyes, seeing the confidence there, the promise of justice. "All right," I said, my voice steady. "Let's do this." The week that followed was the longest of my life. Each day crawled by, the anticipation gnawing at my insides. Sabrina checked in on me daily, her encouragement the only thing keeping me from losing my nerve. What would James find? And would it be enough to turn the tide in my favor? Finally, on the 7th day, my phone rang. It was James. "Julia, it's me. I've got something. Can you meet me at my office in an hour?" My heart leapt into my throat. "I'll be there." When I arrived, Sabrina was already there, pacing the small waiting area. She looked up as I walked in, her eyes alight with anticipation. "Are you ready for this?" I nodded, swallowing hard, as ready as I'll ever be. James met us in his office, his expression serious as he spread a series of documents and photographs across his desk. "I did some digging into Rachel's background," he began, his voice steady. "And let me tell you, this woman is no saint." He slid a document towards me, a mugshot of Rachel staring back at me, her eyes hard and cold. First off, she has a criminal record, embezzlement from her previous job. She managed to avoid jail time, but it was a close call. I stared at the paper, disbelief and anger warring within me. But James wasn't finished. "That's not all," he continued, his voice taking on a graver tone. "I also found out that she's a person of interest in the death of her ex-boyfriend. The police suspected foul play, but they could never prove anything. Rachel was the last person to see him alive." My breath caught in my throat. Could it really be true? Had Rachel been hiding something this dark, this twisted all along? James leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "This is serious, Julia. If this information were to come to light, Rachel's life as she knows it would be over. Her reputation, her marriage, everything." A flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "So, what do we do now?" James's smile was slow and dangerous. "Now we use it. We let Rachel know that we have this information. If she doesn't want it to go public, she'll have to convince Scott to make things right with you." Sabrina nodded, her eyes gleaming. "And if she refuses?" James shrugged. "Then we go to the police. We let them reopen the investigation into her ex's death. One way or another, Rachel will face the consequences of her actions." I sat back, my mind spinning with possibilities. Could this really work? Could I finally make Scott and Rachel pay for what they had done? Looking into James's confident eyes, I made my decision. "I'm in," I said, my voice firm. "Let's make them pay." The next day passed in a blur, my nerves on edge as I waited for James's call. Finally, in the late afternoon, my phone rang. "It's done," James said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. I sent all the information to Rachel, along with a little message letting her know that if she doesn't want it to go public, she needs to convince Scott to make amends with you. I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Do you think it will work? There's only one way to find out, James replied. But trust me, with the dirt we have on her, she'd be crazy not to comply. Hours passed with no word. I paced my living room, jumping at every sound, convinced it was the doorbell or the phone. But as evening fell, there was still nothing. Just as I was about to give up and go to bed, there was a pounding at the door. My heart in my throat, I opened it to find Scott standing there, his face twisted with anger. "What the hell did you do?" he snarled, pushing past me into the house. Rachel told me everything. About the private investigator, about you digging up her past. You thought you could blackmail her into making me forgive you? I stood my ground, lifting my chin. I didn't blackmail anyone, Scott. I just let her know that actions have consequences. She can't just destroy my life and get away with it. Scott let out a harsh laugh, his eyes blazing. Destroy your life? You're the one who's been trying to destroy our marriage, our family, with your constant guilt-tripping and manipulation. And now this? Anger surged through me, hot and bright. I'm not the one who turned you against me, Scott. That was all Rachel. She's poisoned you against me. Can't you see that? She's a criminal, a liar, maybe even a murderer. For a moment, Scott looked stunned, but then his face hardened. You're unbelievable. You really think I'm going to believe your crazy accusations over my own wife? The mother of my children? They're not accusations, they're facts. James found proof. I don't care what your little detective friend found, Scott roared. Rachel is my wife, and I trust her. I love her, and nothing you say or do is going to change that. Tears stung my eyes, blurring my vision. So that's it then? You're choosing her over me, your own mother? Scott's jaw clenched. You made that choice for me the moment you decided to pull this stunt. I'm done with you, Mom. Done with your lies, your schemes, all of it. He turned to leave, and panic seized me. Scott, please, I called out. But he was already gone, slamming the door behind him. The finality of it shook me to my core. I sank to the floor, sobs tearing from my throat. This wasn't supposed to happen. The truth was supposed to set me free, to bring Scott back to me. Instead, it had only driven him further away. Through my tears, I heard my phone ringing. It was James. I answered, my voice thick and shaky. Julia, what happened? Did it work? A bitter laugh escaped me. No, it didn't work. Scott, he's gone. He chose Rachel. There was a pause. Then James spoke, his tone determined. Then we move on to Plan B. We go to the police, get them to reopen the investigation into Rachel's ex's death. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. What's the point? It won't change anything. Scott made his choice. This isn't about Scott anymore, James said firmly. This is about justice, about making sure Rachel pays for what she's done, one way or another. I closed my eyes, exhaustion and grief washing over me. Could I do it? Could I really destroy my son's wife, the mother of my grandchildren? But then I remembered the look in Scott's eyes, the venom in his voice, the way Rachel had smirked, so smug and self-satisfied. They had brought this on themselves, and now they would face the consequences. Okay, I whispered, a new resolve hardening in my chest. Let's do it. Let's make her pay. The next few days were a blur of activity. James and I gathered all the evidence he had collected, organizing it into a neat package to present to the police. Sabrina was a constant presence, offering support and encouragement whenever my resolve wavered. Finally, the day arrived. We walked into the police station, heads held high, ready to blow the lid off Rachel's sordid past. The detective listened intently as we laid out our case, his brow furrowing as he examined the documents and photographs. When we finished, he sat back, a grim expression on his face. This is serious stuff, he said, tapping the file. If what you're saying is true, we have grounds to reopen the investigation into Miss Michael's ex-boyfriend's death. I felt a surge of vindication. It is true, every word of it, I affirmed. The detective nodded. All right then, leave this with me. I'll get the ball rolling. We left the station, a sense of anticipation thrumming through me. It was really happening. Rachel was finally going to face the music. 5 days later, I received a call from James. Turn on the news, he said, a note of triumph in his voice. I did as he said, my heart pounding as the anchor's face filled the screen. Breaking news, she announced, her expression serious. Local woman Rachel Michaels has been arrested in connection with the previously unsolved death of her ex-boyfriend Andrew Huberman. New evidence has come to light, prompting police to reopen the investigation. I watched, transfixed, as they showed footage of Rachel being led out of her and Scott's house in handcuffs, her face a mix of shock and anger. Scott followed behind, looking stunned and lost. A fierce satisfaction burned in my chest. She was finally getting what she deserved. But my joy was short-lived. The news report went on to describe how Scott had to use their savings to post Rachel's bail and hire a lawyer. It was a financial blow, one that would undoubtedly strain their marriage. I should have felt guilty, knowing that I had played a part in their hardship. But all I could think was that it served them right. They had brought this on themselves with their cruelty and deceit. Over the next few weeks, I watched from afar as the drama unfolded. Rachel's arrest made headlines, and the court of public opinion was merciless. Speculation ran rampant about her involvement in her ex's death and what other secrets she might be hiding. Scott put on a brave face, standing by his wife in public, but I could see the toll it was taking. He looked haggard, worn down by the constant scrutiny and whispers. A part of me yearned to reach out, to offer comfort and support, but I hardened my heart, reminding myself of the way he had cast me aside, the vicious words he had hurled at me. He had made his bed, and now he would lie in it. One afternoon, as I was returning from the grocery store, I spotted a familiar figure on my doorstep. It was Scott, his shoulders slumped, his eyes red-rimmed. For a moment, I considered ignoring him, pretending I wasn't home, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked coldly as I approached, my arms laden with bags. Scott looked up, his expression a mix of exhaustion and desperation. "Mom, I need your help." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, now you need my help. What happened to being done with me and my schemes?" He flinched as if I'd struck him. I know I said some awful things, but this is bigger than that. Rachel's in real trouble, Mom. The evidence against her, it's bad." A flicker of worry passed through me. "What are you saying?" Scott's voice broke. "I'm saying, I don't know what to do. The lawyer fees are bankrupting us, and if Rachel goes to prison, I can't raise the kids on my own. I need you, Mom. Please." I stared at him, torn between the urge to comfort him and the desire to lash out. He looked so broken, so defeated. But then I remembered the pain he had caused, the way he had abandoned me. I straightened my spine, my voice cold. "You should have thought of that before you turned your back on me. I'm sorry, Scott, but you're on your own." With that, I brushed past him, ignoring his pleas and apologies. He had made his choice, and now he would live with the consequences. A few days after Scott's desperate visit, I received an unexpected call. It was Rachel's mother, her voice tight with barely contained anger. "Julia, I know we've had our differences, but I need to ask a favor," she said, the words seeming to pain her. I felt a flicker of surprise. "What kind of favor?" "It's the kids," she replied, her tone softening. "With everything going on with Rachel's case, Scott's struggling to keep up. He needs a break. I was hoping you could take the children for the weekend." I hesitated, torn. On one hand, the thought of spending time with my grandchildren filled me with longing. It had been so long since I'd seen them. But on the other, The idea of helping Scott and Rachel after everything they had done to me was hard to accept. "Please, Julia," Rachel's mother pressed, sensing my reluctance. "I know you love those kids. They need some stability right now, and Lord knows they won't get it from Scott or Rachel." I sighed, my resolve crumbling. She was right. Whatever issues I had with their parents, my grandchildren were innocent. They deserved better than to be caught in the middle of this mess. "All right," I agreed. "I'll take them for the weekend, but I'm doing this for them, not for Scott or Rachel." "Of course. Thank you, Julia. I'll let Scott know to drop them off Friday evening." True to her word, Scott arrived on my doorstep that Friday with the kids in tow. He looked even worse than the last time I'd seen him, his face gaunt and shadowed. "Mom," he greeted me, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it." I nodded stiffly, my attention on the children. They looked up at me, their eyes wide and uncertain. "Grandma," my granddaughter cried, breaking into a smile. She rushed forward, wrapping her little arms around my waist. I hugged her back, blinking back sudden tears. "Hello, sweetheart. I've missed you." My grandson was more reserved, hovering by Scott's side. I knelt down, opening my arms. "Come here, buddy. It's okay." Slowly he stepped into my embrace, his small body trembling. My heart ached for him, for both of them. Scott cleared his throat. "I'll pick them up Sunday evening. If anything comes up, just give me a call." I straightened, meeting his gaze coolly. "We'll be fine. Enjoy your weekend." With a final nod, he left, leaving me alone with the kids. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "Who wants pizza for dinner?" The weekend passed in a blur of laughter, games, and stories. For a little while, I was able to forget the drama and heartache, lost in the simple joy of being with my grandchildren. But all too soon, it was over. Scott arrived to collect the kids, his expression guarded as they gathered their things. "Grandma, can we come stay with you again soon? We had so much fun." My granddaughter tugged on my hand. I smiled, smoothing her hair. "Of course, honey. Anytime you want." Scott's jaw tightened. "We should get going. Say goodbye, kids." They hugged me tightly, their little faces sad. I watched as they climbed into Scott's car, my heart heavy as he prepared to leave. Scott paused, turning back to me. "Listen, Mom, about what they said. I don't want you getting any ideas. This was a one-time thing," I bristled, anger sparking. "Excuse me?" Worn down by the constant scrutiny and whispers. A part of me yearned to reach out, to offer comfort and support, but I hardened my heart, reminding myself of the way he had cast me aside, the vicious words he had hurled at me. He had made his bed, and now he would lie in it. One afternoon, as I was returning from the grocery store, I spotted a familiar figure on my doorstep. It was Scott, his shoulders slumped, his eyes red-rimmed. For a moment, I considered ignoring him, pretending I wasn't home, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked coldly as I approached, my arms laden with bags. Scott looked up, his expression a mix of exhaustion and desperation. "Mom, I need your help." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, now you need my help. What happened to being done with me and my schemes?" He flinched as if I'd struck him. I know I said some awful things, but this is bigger than that. Rachel's in real trouble, Mom. The evidence against her, it's bad." A flicker of worry passed through me. "What are you saying?" Scott's voice broke. "I'm saying, I don't know what to do. The lawyer fees are bankrupting us, and if Rachel goes to prison, I can't raise the kids on my own. I need you, Mom. Please." I stared at him, torn between the urge to comfort him and the desire to lash out. He looked so broken, so defeated. But then I remembered the pain he had caused, the way he had abandoned me. I straightened my spine, my voice cold. "You should have thought of that before you turned your back on me. I'm sorry, Scott, but you're on your own." With that, I brushed past him, ignoring his pleas and apologies. He had made his choice, and now he would live with the consequences. One with the kids. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile. Who wants pizza for dinner? The weekend passed in a blur of laughter, games, and stories. For a little while, I was able to forget the drama and heartache, lost in the simple joy of being with my grandchildren. But all too soon, it was over. Scott arrived to collect the kids, his expression guarded as they gathered their things. "Grandma, can we come stay with you again soon? We had so much fun." My granddaughter tugged on my hand. I smiled, smoothing her hair. "Of course, honey. Anytime you want." Scott's jaw tightened. "We should get going. Say goodbye, kids." They hugged me tightly, their little faces sad. I watched as they climbed into Scott's car, my heart heavy as he prepared to leave. Scott paused, turning back to me. "Listen, Mom, about what they said. I don't want you getting any ideas. This was a one-time thing." I bristled, anger sparking. "Excuse me? You think I'm trying to turn them against you?" "Wouldn't be the first time," he muttered. I saw red. "How dare you? I have done nothing but love and support those children, which is more than I can say for you and Rachel. You're so wrapped up in your own drama. You can't even see how much they're hurting." Scott's face flushed. "You have no idea what we're going through. No idea the stress, the pressure." "And whose fault is that?" I cut him off. "You chose this, Scott. You chose Rachel and all the chaos that comes with her. Don't you dare put that on me." He stared at me, his eyes hard. "This isn't over, Mom. I won't let you poison my kids against me the way you did with Dad." With that, he got in the car and drove away, leaving me shaking with rage and hurt. I stood there, watching until the car disappeared from view, a cold determination settling over me. If Scott wanted to play hardball, then so be it. I was done playing nice. It was time to end this once and for all. The day of Rachel's trial arrived, cold and gray. I dressed with care, choosing a somber black suit that radiated quiet authority. Sabrina picked me up, her face set with grim determination. "Are you ready for this?" she asked as we drove to the courthouse. I nodded, my jaw tight. I've been ready for a long time. We met James on the steps, his expression serious. "I've got a surprise for you," he said, leading us inside. I tracked down Andrew Huberman's family. They're here to testify. I felt a surge of gratitude and vindication. With their testimony, Rachel's fate would be sealed. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. I took my seat behind the prosecutor's table, my heart pounding as Rachel was led in. Her wrists and ankles shackled. She looked pale and drawn, but her eyes still glittered with malice when they met mine. Scott sat stiffly beside her, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. I looked away, focusing on the judge as he called the court to order. The trial was grueling and emotional. The prosecutor laid out the evidence against Rachel in damning detail, painting a picture of a cruel, calculating woman who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. But it was the testimony of Andrew Huberman's family that truly sealed her fate. His mother, a frail, silver-haired woman, spoke of her son's kind heart, his bright future cut short. His sister wept as she recounted Rachel's controlling, abusive behavior and how she had isolated Andrew from his loved ones. Through it all, Rachel sat stone-faced, her eyes cold and empty. Scott grew more and more agitated, his knee bouncing, his hands clenched into fists. Finally, it was time for the verdict. The jury filed back in, their faces somber. The foreman stood, clearing his throat. In the matter of the state versus Rachel Michaels, on the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. Rachel's face drained of color, her mouth falling open. Scott leaped to his feet, his chair clattering to the floor. "No!" he shouted, his voice raw with anguish. "No! This is wrong! She's innocent!" The judge banged his gavel. "Calling for order. Mr. Michaels, control yourself, or I will have you removed from this courtroom. Scott subsided, collapsing back into his seat, his head in his hands. Rachel turned to him, her expression desperate. Scott, do something! You can't let them do this to me! But Scott wouldn't look at her, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The bailiff stepped forward, preparing to lead Rachel away. I watched, with a strange mix of emotions swirling within me. Triumph, yes, but also a hollow sort of sadness. It had come to this, my own son, broken and humiliated, his life in ruins. As Rachel was escorted out, she turned back, her eyes locking with mine. In that moment, I saw the depth of her hatred, the venom in her soul. "This isn't over," she hissed, her voice low and deadly. "I'll make you pay for this, I swear it." I met her gaze steadily, unflinching. "You've already paid, Rachel. You made your choices, and now you'll face the consequences. Goodbye." With that, I turned and walked out, my head held high. It was over. Justice had been served. But even as relief washed over me, I couldn't shake the lingering unease. Scott's anguished face haunted me. Had I gone too far? Had my quest for vengeance blinded me to the collateral damage? I shook my head, pushing the doubts aside. No, Scott had made his bed, and now he would lie in it. He had chosen Rachel and turned his back on me. Now he would have to live with the fallout. I stepped out into the cold, gray day, drawing my coat tighter around me. It was time to move on, to build a new life for myself, a life without Scott, without Rachel's toxic influence, a life of my own making,